Okay, welcome back. So we're going to talk about writing the introduction. I think for many of the beginner researchers, I think one of their doubts on themselves is basically in the writing part, no, of doing research because they think that they are not writers. They were not born to be writers. But the good news is this is something that we can learn. This is something that we can master, in fact. No? So, research anyway is not something that makes you a competitor for in terms of among the writers or the researchers around us. No? So, when we present research, we want it to be as simple and as clear as possible without competing as to which word is the most highfalutin or which word is the most appropriate. No, this is not a feature writing or editorial writing or science writing. So this is research writing, which is kind of formal. No, but together with formal is basically having to make research writing very accessible to the readers, to make the audience more appreciative in terms of its simplicity, no, and clarity. So we don't want to mistake making research as something that it's all about using sophisticated and highfalutin words. No, it's about simplicity and clarity. So this is now going to be about writing the introduction. No, as what I've said, you can learn it. No, so uh, I am confident that right after this discussion about the introduction, you will be learning about writing the introduction, the research introduction, no, by learning its parts. So let's proceed now. Okay, what is the purpose of a research introduction? No? There are three main purposes for doing your research introduction. The first is you introduce your problem or gap, no? Because that's the reason why you are making your research. Because there is an identified problem. There is a gap, no? When you talk about gap, these are problems, no? So when you look around, when you look into your area of specialization or areas of work or responsibilities, you identify some problems or gaps, no? Maybe during this pandemic, it's about the mental health issues surrounding our students, no, during the pandemic. Okay, you also have number two, you introduce the background or you narrate the situation of the research, the variables, topics, and key concepts under the title, no, or under the identified problem. Okay, that's the second part. The third part is introduce your expected outcome. What does it mean? So we know already that when you do research, you will be having some findings. No, you will be producing data and information. But beyond that, what is your expected outcome if you have already those data or information? Okay, so that's the expected outcome. Okay, let's explain each part. When you talk about introducing your problems or gap, you have two parts, no? So the gap context, you introduce, no? You cite reliable organizations' findings about it, or maybe an author, a very credible author. So, in terms of gap context, you will describe to us what is the problem right away, no? Right away, what is the research problem? No? Why is it something that it needs research to address it? Then second part of introducing your problem or gap is what is your intention to answer the gap or problem? Okay, so you have to express that. We will have examples later on. Okay, when we talk about the second part, which is introducing the background or situationer of the research, the variables, topics, or key concept, we're going to have the three parts, no? So it will be more clear when we have our examples. But under this part is basically the general background. So you write the general background in terms of international and national situation. Then you have specific backgrounds. It depends on which variables are you or concepts you are using or you will be using. Then you also have the local background, which means you have to contextualize because when you do this research, you have a certain scope, no, or the territory that you are using for this research. So you have to contextualize it in the local background. The last one is introducing your expected outcome. So just as you are going to be extracting information and data, you have to go beyond it, no? So what's your expected outcome means making programs, making policies, for example, or making some actions right after having this data, no? So, or improvement, okay, or developing theories, for example. So that's how introducing your expected outcome is written, no? Next, let's talk about this example so that we will be aligned, no? I'm using this example because all the parts that I had mentioned in the previous slide are all present, no, in this example. So let's deal with these examples in detail. So you have the gap context, no. So it's about the Commission in Higher Education with citation, guys, no, reputable citation from the organization. You have DepEd and CHED. Recognize that there are thousands of teachers and students who were displaced because of the health crisis caused by the COVID-19, excuse me. So the outbreak affected all segments of the population, and that early evidence indicates that the health and economic impacts of the virus are being borne disproportionately, including to the members of the academe, no? Students and teachers. So how do we state the intention to answer the gap? This study investigates the coping mechanism and response of women in the academe in the aspect of mental health and economic situation in the face of a global crisis. So you see, you can use other words like this study examines, this intends to examines, assess, and many other words. You need to change words as well because you cannot use words all over again, no? So that's just a rule in writing, no? You have to be very crucial in terms of not doing redundancy. But anyway, those are the first part of the introducing your gap, no, or the problem. You have the gap context and how do you intend to answer the gap. Let's go to the next part under introducing your background. So you have general backgrounds, no? Your general concept is about mental health and economy. So in this part, you can read about those two concepts in the general statements. No? It's like making some situationers about Philippine government, people for mental health, no? Uh, so these are organizations, reputable organizations, no? And you have the year, no? Do not forget to place the year where the sources are coming from, and of course, we appreciate if the sources are very current, no? That means we're doing the research based on the current scenario. So we also have specific background like on mental health and specific background on economy because that's these are two concepts or variables present, no, mainly present in the title or in the research. So you have these examples. Okay, mental health and economy. And the third part is on the local part. No? So we're talking about since this research is done in Zamboanga City, you have a local contextualization, no, of the research. And it's corroborated, in fact, to other international findings like the World Bank. No? So it's important to contextualize it in the local sphere. No? That makes it very sincere and very targetive that you are doing research based on the on specific location and specific situations, not too general, no, because the research may not really be applicable in the general scope, no, but rather on the specific territory. So you have the expected outcome. It reads, no? So let's differentiate from the usual expected result, no? So you don't just have expected result but outcome. The present study aims to understand and frame policies. Okay. So I mean, we do want it to understand by getting the information and facts. But beyond that, this expected outcome states that it wants to frame policies, no, from the coping mechanism and response of women teachers and learners amid the crisis from the impacts of COVID-19 to both their mental health and economic situations, no. So there, it goes beyond understanding or getting the facts. It wants to frame policies. So that's how to write the introduction. Okay, so for this time, of course, this is just a one pager because we're doing an IMRAD version of our research. No? IMRAD means just a review, is introduction, method, results, and discussion. No? So make an introduction that is just one pager, no? A one pager introduction, single space. No? So that's what you will be submitting in the reply button on the tab that I will be labeling as submit your introduction here. Okay, so don't forget to reply to your classmates about their works and make some comments for improvements or maybe something good also about the output that they had made. No? But improvements, comments for improvements are very, very welcome. Okay, so that's it. So all you need to do is go to the examples. We have examples here. Gap context, intention to answer the gap. Okay. Then you also have the general background. You also have the specific background on mental health and specific background in economy. Okay. Remember, guys, you are writing your own introduction, no? Your own research. So the introduction should be based on the research that you have decided to do. Okay, thank you very much for listening. We will now proceed. Next, in our next video, will be about writing the literature. You would notice that the parts of your introduction or the literature review later on will be based from your research objectives and research problems or statements of the problems. Of course, they came from the main research question, which also came from the identified research problem or research area. Okay.